My name is Horina. I am the engineering lead for the NAV client team. And I'm here with two of my awesome colleagues.
Yeah, my name is Andrea. Third time here, you should remember me. Glad to be back. I'm also a software engineer.
I'm Tomas. I'm also a software engineer.
Okay. So we all want to start by saying that it's really great to be back here in Antwerp once again. And we look forward to show you all the features we have been building since we were last year on this stage. And that was exactly like the year.
It was a nice experience, actually. But Thomas, that's your first year here, right?
That is true.
Yeah. So let's see, who can guess his nationality?
Yay!
Okay,
Yay!
we say that.
We have a T-shirt for you.
Where are you?
Somewhere in the top.
There, well, who was the first one? All right, there you go.
Great.
Okay. So during the keynote, you probably have seen a glimpse of our work during this year of the client enhancements. And now it is time to actually show you in detail how you can enable these new features for your customers in your solution. So let's start with the session objectives for today. So bringing NAV to devices everywhere and anywhere has been a continuous goal in our strategy. And that is why we will be starting at the high level, recapping again the overview of our client technology, where we are and where we are heading towards from user experience point of view. After that, of course, we will go through the nice features, and we'll talk about the latest features and updates that are available into this year's release. And we hope that at the end of the session, you will walk away with a good understanding of how you can enable these features and create new scenarios for your customers. And then we will also take a peek under the hood at the architecture and platform improvements that we have done during this year. And there are quite a lot. Our focus has been, as you have also seen in the keynote, on providing a great experience for our end users in the cloud. And as usual, we will be rounding up with a Q&A.
Yeah, it's a pretty big agenda, right?
Yes.
So where do you start from?
Yes, so let's start with our overview of the client technology. So at a high level, we will be going where our users are going, which is basically devices and Office 365. And interestingly enough, the devices have introduced new scenarios for us. And the reason for it is because they bring the computation and information to be available anywhere. And today it is expected that any user can perform any task on any device at any time, and securely and with comfort, and also supporting all sorts of type of interactions like visual, touch, gesture, voice, mouse, keyboard, and so on. And basically the desktop client, right? It's still here with us. Users are very fond of it, and it's not going to go away anytime soon. But one thing is for sure, and that is that there is no more one single entry point for the users that we as system providers and developers can optimize and build our application for. So we also have, looking at the NAV clients, right? We have the desktop clients which are designed for intensive use for concurrent tasks, right? And also we have the tablet and phone, and these are basically optimized for touch and enables our users to perform their task anywhere, basically. And recently, we also have a small addition, and which is that the NAV Universal App can run on HoloLens. We did not have time to optimize fully for the HoloLens scenarios, but you should go ahead and try it out. At least we had fun trying it out, right?
Horina, I told you, I was really actually doing work at my desk when I was playing with HoloLens.
It didn't really look like that. was just waving hands all over the place. It really didn't look like that.
I think it was the first time Tomas was happy about testing his features.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yes. So now that we have a good overview of our clients and where are we going, let's talk a little bit about how NAV user interface comes to life. And it is important to note one thing, that the NAV user interface has not been optimized for one single narrow task. Basically, it is a fully featured app. It is flexible, customizable, and role-centric. So it all starts with the table data and page objects, basically with the application functionality and the business logic. And after that, we define the profiles, and then we start applying the configuration and personalization layers. And those two layers basically allow us to customize the user interface. And the difference between configuration and personalization is that the configuration changes are applied to all users in a certain role, while the personalization, they are specific to one user. And after that, the NAV platform takes over and uses a set of layout builders to render the controls on the screen. So these layout builders are actually not customizable, and that's intentional, right? Because they make decisions based on the form factor and device type. And one common misconception about the user personalization, that has been that the user personalization is intended to render the UI differently between desktop, tablet, and phone. But actually, that's not the intention of user personalization. The intention of the user personalization is to provide the exact view of the data that the user needs to perform their daily tasks. And this is how basically the NAV user interface comes to life, meaning we have, even though it's one user interface, it actually has three displays, three user interfaces, and they're all based on the same common app and on the same common client platform.
Yeah, it's always nice to have a recap of architecture. But you promised us something new, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So let's talk about what is new, right? And let's talk about one of our recent features, and that is user personalization. So recently we have introduced for our end users the ability to customize their workspace in the web client directly in the browser. So what does this mean? This means that the users of the web client can also now optimize for efficiency, meaning they can, for example, take the fields that they use the most and move it on the top of the page, or they can simply hide away the data that they or their organization don't need. And it has been our goal to provide an intuitive experience, meaning that the users will simply get immersed into and not really need any help for doing these changes, so they can just do it themselves. So let's take a look at how personalization actually works.
All right.
Can we switch?
Let's make the switch.
Okay. So I'm currently signing into Dynamics 365 Finance and Operation in the Business Manager Role Center. And where do I find the personalized action? I find it under the Settings cogwheel in the Dynamics 365 shell. And notice that when I click the personalized action, then the personalization toolbar appears. And I can start right there customizing my role center without any additional setup. So what is it that I can do with the role center, for example? I can drag the tiles inside the activities part. So let's assume that I use invoices a lot or orders, and then I would like to have it to be the first tile. So I can just drag it in front of the orders. And also I can hide tiles that I don't necessarily need. For example, I have been knowing NAV for quite some time, so I don't really need the replay getting started tile. So now that I am done customizing my role center, I can move on to the items list and also customize my view there as well. So when I actually move to the item list, you can see in the rows view that the number column is at all times in view, and that is because the number column is set up to be the free span column. But now I would like to also keep the description field in view whenever I scroll onto the right. So how do I do that? I set the free span to be the description column. And notice how the UI simply adjusts to my changes. So I do these changes directly in line, and then the screen simply adapts to my changes. And I can do a lot of other things, like, for example, I can move the columns around. Let's pick one. Let's pick the, for example, base unit of measure and move it before quantity on hand. And I can also hide some columns. Let's assume I don't need the assembly BOM, for instance. And that's it, basically. This is how I get to the exact view of my data. And now that I am happy with how the grid looks, I can also start looking on the right side where we have the Factbox pane. And since I love a lot the item attributes features, then I would like to see it on top of the Power BI reports, which are not set up. So I can just move it on top. That's great. And now I can go even further and customize my view on the item card. And I can do almost the same things I have done on the list, but at a fields level. So for instance, I can take the quantity on hand and move it on the first tab, because maybe I'm using this field a lot. Or I can, for example, rearrange the fields inside the first tab. Let's just pick one and move it around. And also I can hide the fields that I don't necessarily need. So that's it. That is how simple I can get to the exact view that I want. So I can see only that data that I care about and in the preferred sequence.
Yeah, rearranging content on the page is very nice. I have to say I was expecting a bit more than that.
So we also have more capabilities in the personalization toolbar. So if you click more, you will see that there is also the option to add a field. So add a field will slide in a pane in the right-hand side. And you can, basically, this pane contains the fields that you don't have added yet on the page. And by dragging it directly onto the canvas, this will be added to the item card. And this is how I'm performing all the changes directly in line, right? And now, for example, I think maybe I'm not satisfied with all the changes that I have made, and I would like to press on clear personalization.
After all this work?
Really? So the thing is that we're not going, so clear personalization does not revert all the changes you have done so far. Basically, it only reverts the changes that the user is currently on.
Okay.
Right? So you will only lose the item card changes.
Okay, that's better. So should we?
No.
Oh, okay.
So actually, I'm satisfied with my view, so I just want to press done.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay.
So notice how basically now I exited personalization, and what happens behind the scenes is that those changes will get applied to me and only to me. And there is no more additional changes in the UI because all the adjustments had already been done whilst customizing. And also I can use the product in the same time. So that concludes our demo on personalization, I think. So now we should switch back to the slide and talk about the personalization summary. What is it that we need to remember, right? So basically with personalization, you can only show, the users can optimize now for efficiency, and they basically can show only the data they care about, and in the preferred data sequence. Also, the UI interactions are based on drag and drop, which provides an in-context immerse directly in client experience. And also, we can talk a little bit about the personalization in terms of what technology this is based on. Do you know?
Yeah, I know that, but the question is, do you know?
Does anybody know what's behind the personalization? I know Microsoft people know.
That's an existing technology, something that we shipped in Azure Virtual Machine Images a few months ago. What was that?
JavaScript.
No.
Let me give you a hint. There is another session
About that.
in the same time with us. Yeah, close. Designer tool, right? It's basically it's basically based on the designer tool, but you can get research.
Sure, that's fine. Okay. Tomas, you handle that?
Yeah. Here you go.
Where are you? Oh, cool. That was close.
Yeah, so basically, yes, the personalization has been implemented based on the designer tool. So behind the scenes, yes, there is a special extension called page extension. You won't be able to see that into the extension management, so don't try that. But basically, this means that we can basically continue enriching the personalization capabilities even more, since it is based on a new technology. So Designer is in general a platform for great innovation. So we're looking forward to actually work more on personalization. So, but with every great feature, right, it also has a small fine print. Of course, you all know that personalization is available in Windows Client today. And when we have implemented the personalization in web, we have been actually looking at the Windows Client as a reference point. However, right now, we don't have yet full parity with the Windows Client in terms of what we can and do, and there is documentation available on what are the gaps. But basically, we're actively working on covering those gaps as well. Also, it is important to understand, now that you know how the personalization in web is, which technology is based on, that basically the Windows client personalization and the web client personalization are based on two different technologies that are not yet able to talk to each other just yet. And that is why we have not yet provided a tool that can migrate the personalization from the Windows client to the personalization on web. But it's also something that it is top of mind for us. So also we are currently missing the ability to configure profiles. That is also something that we're currently working on. The other two parts that are left in terms of fine print, they are regarding the personalization experience. So you will not have a personalization experience on the mobile devices and Outlook. So what does that mean? That means that the personalization toolbar you have just saw on the web client is actually not available on mobile devices and Outlook. But basically, if the user applies the changes customizes the role center or the lists on the web client, those changes will also be available on mobile devices and in Outlook, right? So we don't have the exact customization experience available yet on devices. And one last thing, basically we don't support form factor personalization. That means you won't be able to track independently the personalization on desktop versus personalization on tablet and phone. So as I mentioned before, if you customize your workspace, those changes will be available on all HTML clients. So that concludes my talk on personalization. And now, I think that now that you have seen, how you can instantly customize your workspace, Tomas is going to show how to instantly change company and profile.
Yes. So Horina just showed how we enable the user to adapt his environment or user interface to best fit his needs. And I would like to build on this topic and show how users are now in control of their settings. By showing the new instant My Settings page. We have introduced My Settings page in 2016. We were inspired by Office products to create one central place for the user to manage their system-wide settings, like company name, profile, language, and others. Switching company and profile is really important for small and medium businesses because employees in these companies usually fill multiple roles, and they have to switch between them multiple times during the day. And speaking about roles, accountants is especially interesting because they usually work with multiple companies throughout the day. So previously, using My Settings was not a great experience. Users had to sign out and sign in again for the settings to take effect. And it also limited some of the use cases, like working with multiple companies side by side. And we heard constant feedback from community that this is not a great experience, and we agree. So we have acted upon on it and tried to improve the experience. And without further ado, I want to show you the new instant My Settings page. Let's jump to a demo. And for this demo, I'm going to assume a role of a business manager or private business owner who's doing his own accounting and also doing accounting, offering accounting services for other companies. So I land in my business manager role center, where I spend most of my time. But now I would like to switch to accountant profile and do some accounting for my own company. So I'm gonna go to my settings. My settings page is still in the same place. It's under settings. And it looks exactly the same. All the changes we did were internal, and it's just now gonna work as you just would expect it. So Andrea, let's select accountant profile. It works exactly the same. And just before hitting OK, so before a user would be presented with a information dialog saying that, oh, be warned, you have to sign out and sign in again for your settings to take effect. Well, that's no longer the case. Let's hit OK. So now a web client immediately refreshes, and when it's done, we land into accountant role center, and I can just do my tasks right away here.
So you're an accountant now?
Yeah, I'm an accountant now.
What do you want to do here?
Today, Andrea, we're going to create a purchase invoice, but there's one catch. We're going to do it only using keyboard. You're not allowed to use mouse.
I'm not sure what's going to happen.
Okay. No mouse.
It's going to work.
Okay.
So we'll start with navigation pane, and we'll use tab button to select purchase invoices in the navigation pane. And you'll hit enter to open the page. Purchase invoices list page will gonna open, and you will be immediately focused into the first row of the list. But we want to create a new invoice, so we're gonna use Shift tab to navigate backwards to a new action. Yeah, let's hit enter to open the card page. And here again, the first input field is automatically focused, and we'll use Alt arrow down to expand the lookup, and let's select the first vendor. I think that's great. And then Andrea is going to use tab again to reach the first focusable element in the grid. And so far, the experience was pretty standard. This is how NAV works today. But now Andrea is actually able to navigate in the grid columns using arrow keys, because we have adopted a focus group pattern inspired by Office products. So you'll be very familiar how it works. Basically, we divide our UI into focus groups, or components which make sense together, and you can navigate between those groups using tab, but inside of those groups, you can use arrow keys. So now you can immediately skip the grid columns and jump straight into the first row of the grid by using tab.
Tab?
Yes.
Yeah.
And since input fields are focus groups, because they are important parts of the application, you navigate between them using tab. So let's pick an item number. Again, using Alt arrow, you expand the lookup, and Andrea knows which item to pick. It's the Antwerp conference table. Last thing to do, let's fill in quantity, and again, Andrea is going to use tab to focus input quantity field. And the last touch, Andrea, let's press Ctrl-Enter. So that immediately allows us to jump out of the grid and jump to the next focusable field below the grid in the form. And this is great for accessibility and productivity at the same time. Andrea, I think we are done here, but now I would like to check on other company I'm doing accounting for, which is not my company. So Andrea is going to open a new tab, and I'm just going to explain how this experience would look previously. So previously, I would either sign out and sign in again and work with one company at a time, or I could possibly open two different browsers and sign in at the same time on two different browsers, or use in private mode, but that's just not a great experience. What we can do now using instant My Settings, we can go to My Settings again. When the page opens, we're going to do same selection as we did with Profile. We're going to select a new company, and it's going to be my awesome company, of course. We're going to select my awesome company and hit OK again. You'll see the same experience. The change is instant. The client is going to refresh. Yeah, let's just say OK. Client refreshes, and I will land in my awesome company.
Oh.
Just like that.
It does look awesome.
Yep.
Okay.
And I think all the vitals of my company looks great. So we don't have to take any action here. But let's look back at the previous tab. I can still work with my previous company if I choose so. It's not lost. So now I can, using new my settings instant feature, I can easily work side by side with multiple companies. And by the way, exactly the same experience is available on mobile. Let's see how it was possible.
And also profiles, right? So we can have the same approach with profiles as well. You can work with multiple profiles simultaneously, having side-by-side tabs in the same browser windows.
Exactly. All settings in my settings page work the same way. Yeah. So let's look how it was possible. Before, session settings and session was very tightly coupled. So we needed to introduce a new complex AL type to decouple the session settings from actual session. So we have a new type which holds all the basic session information like company, profile ID, language ID, locale ID, time zone. And it is easy to use this type as initializing, setting value you want to change, and requesting for a session update. It's better reflected in code, so let's jump to code example. And here you can see session settings type, and it is complex type in the sense of computer science, but it's definitely not complex to use. Here I tried to find the simplest use of session settings type. So I created a new variable, which is called mySettings. And the only thing you have to do is to initialize it. This will load stored session setting information from the personalization table and fill this type with this information. Then you're going to set the value you want to change. In this case, again, I want to switch to my awesome company. And then you will request for session update. And here you have two options. You can call it with true, which is going to save these new settings to personalization table. And that means that these settings are going to apply to all future sessions. So it will be a persistent change. Or you can call this method with false, and you'll get a one-off session with these settings without actually changing user settings. So this opens a new interesting area for creating new user experiences. Yeah, let's summarize. So we introduced a new session settings type. It enables to instantly change session settings. Right now from my settings page. It works in all HTML clients. Just one note, it is not recommended to run code after calling request session update because the server actually doesn't know when the session change will occur. So there's no guarantee when or if the code is going to execute after this call. Also, session settings type is available in extensions. So you can also integrate that in your solutions or extensions for SaaS offering. Also, session update is ignored in OData and SOAP web service calls because it simply does not apply there. And also, it's important to always call init before changing or requesting for a new session, just to make sure that you're not overriding the sessions you did not intend to override. So do not be discouraged by these best practices, because it's a cool new type which opens a lot of new possibilities, and we are really looking forward to see what the developer community is built on using this. Now I want to show you another thing. So we talked a lot about how users can adapt their UI, how they are in control of their settings. Now I would like to focus to one specific workflow which we worked hard to improve, and that's report preview and print. Viewing and printing reports is a very important part of end-to-end business interactions. There's nothing worse in terms of productivity when you have to switch between different apps just to preview a PDF document while you're working on some important flow. And it just breaks your focus, and it's not a great user experience. Most of you probably are familiar how report preview works today in Windows client. So every request page has a print and preview button, and they open a new window where we have basic controls for navigating the PDF and also printing. So the same functionality, but in much lesser extent, was also available on web client. But previously, it only worked with Internet Explorer because of selection of some specialized components. Here in the NAV client team, we strive to embrace the open web standards, and we want to provide the same great experience on all modern browsers. So this year, we worked hard to create a new PDF report preview control, which offers uncompromised experience on all supported platforms by NAV. So let's see how that works in action. So I land into sales order processor role center, and I will give a quick tour of some of the reports showing off the report preview capabilities. Andrea, let's expand the ribbon, and in the customer reports, let's select customer item statistics. And so now we get a request page where we have two familiar actions from Windows client. That's printing and previewing a report. In this case, let's select preview. And now server is going to generate a PDF document, and is going to serve the document to the client. So the rendering is going to be performed fully on the client. It's all client-based. And here we have very familiar experience, full screen. We have PDF document in the center. We try to use the space available in the most optimal way. And we also have familiar controls, which you've probably seen in other PDF viewer apps. So Andrea, let's try some of them. For example, let's zoom in.
Okay.
Yeah, and here you can see that rendering is really crisp. There's no distortion. You can clearly read the text. And you can also, let's try to fit back to the page.
Here.
Yeah, and it's very instant. It's just as you would expect. That's what we wanted to provide. And Andrea, let's try to hit print. Let's see how does that work.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we just get the native printing experience from the browser. And if you already set it up a printer, you can immediately hit print, and it's going to be printed. But this time, we're not going to do that.
We care about the world, right?
Yeah, so we would rather download and send a file through email. Let's close this report. And let's look at another customer report. I actually want to check my top 10 customers. So it's, again, in the ribbon in customer reports. And this time, we're going to skip the preview, and we'll jump straight to the print. So that works. The flow is the same as in Windows client, so you can save time. If you are comfortable with the report and you know how it's going to look, you can hit print, and you're immediately presented with the same native browser page where you can preview the PDF. And here, please note that the PDF is very rich, so we support custom fonts, we support images, and you can see the graph is also rendered just perfectly. And again, if you have all the printers set up ready in the browser, it just works in all pages, and it also works in NAV. Yeah, again, we're not going to print the document, so let's close. Okay. Now let's open page search, and we're going to search for one interesting report, which is detail trial. Yeah. And again, let's just preview the report. And this report is interesting because it's very big. And you can see here, we are waiting for server to prepare the PDF document, but once it's ready and it hits the client, it's going to be very fast. How many pages do we have, Andrea?
I have no idea. I should scroll?
Yeah, let's just scroll a bit.
75?
Yeah, that's a lot. And here you can see the experience is really good because we try to optimize how we render the page. We employ some really smart strategies of partial rendering, how many pages do we render. Andrea, let's try to zoom. That also should work just as smoothly as before. And now we'll try a control which we didn't try before. Let's try to select text. So Andrea is going to pick a text selection tool. And he can just decide on a text he wants to select, and it just works as expected. You can copy and paste. Also, we support links. So if a PDF document contains links, you can just press on them, and they're going to open in a new tab, and it's just an experience you would expect in your modern browser. Andrea, I think this looks good. I know Andrea can also pan the document using the other tool, which is the hand tool. Again, just as in any PDF previewer.
Yeah, true.
Let's close the report, and let's recap a bit on the new PDF control. So the new control supports RDLC and Word layout, report layouts. What does that mean for you? Well, you don't have to change anything. If you have reports already available, they're gonna just render fine on the web client. Also, the new control is full screen and responsive. So we try to utilize the maximum amount of space available. Also, we scale in any resolution or form factor. We also support different page sizes and pictures and custom fonts. So you're not limited. We don't want to limit your creativity when you create PDFs or reports. One note, we have not done any changes on Windows Client. So Windows Client is still using the old control, and the new control is available on web client and mobile. And that's right. It's also available on mobile. The same great experience is also available on mobile. We created a new control, which works on the web client and on the mobile. You will get, on mobile, you will get the smooth rendering, same smooth rendering performance, and also intuitive touch controls like pinch to zoom, panning, text, and so on. And so you can have an uncompromised experience while you're on the go, in the office, anywhere. It just works. Okay, so let's see how this works in practice on a phone. So again, I land into a role center. I will pick a report, which we already seen, just to show you a comparison between web and mobile. So I'll pick top 10 customer report, and I'm gonna hit preview. And again, you'll see the same flow. Server prepares the PDF document, and we're gonna see it appear on the mobile client. And you can see here, it's just as beautiful as it was on web. Mm-hmm. You can see the same richness. I can pinch to zoom, and it's as crisp as it was on mobile. The graph looks fine. It's colored. This line alteration, everything. I can also pan. If I would have more pages, I would flick to scroll. And since this is a mobile experience, users expect a bit more than we had on a web. And we are tapping into native APIs, which allows us to tap into the native iOS sharing pane, where you can either send this PDF to your friend or coworker over email. You can send it on Facebook Messenger, or you can maybe using Slack or Microsoft Teams. You can also print it. If you have already set it up a printer on your iPhone, again, in NAV it just works because it tries to coexist in the platform and use the best capabilities we can. Let's jump back to the slides and summarize. So the new PDF control, the report preview, and print control is available everywhere. So it is exactly the same in the web client and in the mobile. You'll get very similar experience. It is embedded, in meaning that you don't have to install any extra apps or plugins to use this functionality. It is inside of NAV, and you can immediately use it. It is interactive, so we adapt to the platform we are in and try to use the most capabilities we can. So on a desktop, you'll be able to use keyboard shortcuts or a mouse. On a mobile device, you'll be able to use all the touch gestures, and also modern. It was a great start, but we have some ideas how we could build on top of this control and enable even more capabilities. So now we have seen a new thing for mobile platform, but that's not the only thing. And now let's switch focus to Andrea, and he's going to show us the new context API. Here you go, Andrea.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Thomas. So Microsoft Dynamics NAV tries to provide the same experience regardless of the display target you're in. It means desktop, tablet, or phone. You're gonna get the same functionalities. That's our objective here, our motto. You have seen a lot of great stuff in desktop, thanks to Horina, and on phone as well, thanks to Tomas. And I would like to stick with the phone in order to show you some another cool functionality we just developed, made available for you. And that is one scenario that we decided to enhance. And that scenario is filling in the details of a new customer. It is a very common scenario, and it can take just a bit of time. It's one of those things that you don't really like to do, because it might take 1.5 minutes, but still, you just need to fill in the name, the email, some numbers. Can we just make it faster? The answer is yes, especially considering the fact that those information, most of the time, are already in your phone, inside one of your contacts. Sometimes, actually many times, the customer you're trying to create, all the information for the customers are already in your contact list. So many times what we see is that customers try to fill in the information for a new customer, and they need to switch app on the phone to get the contact and copy something, copy the email address or copy the phone number and then paste it inside Microsoft Dynamics NAV, which is a bit wrong. So we can sure enhance this. And that's what we did. So let's have a look at that. So let's switch to the phone.
Yep.
And let's bring Microsoft Dynamics NAV. So, oh, here's your awesome report. But I don't need that. What I need to do, as I said, is I need to create a new customer. So let's navigate to the customers list. And let's add a new customer. Let's just pick one of the templates. The developer of this application created an action for me. And that action is, as you can see, import contact. As soon as I click on the action, the Microsoft Dynamics NAV is able to actually talk to the device and using the capabilities of the device is able to bring up the contacts, the contact list. So I can just pick one of the contacts. Yeah, Stan. Let's add Stan. And Stan is there now. So I'm just importing the name in here, but basically what you can do is in CAL, you have the ability to get all the information from the contact. So all the data, all the fields from your contact, from your device, are made available in CAL. So you can basically transfer all of them inside the fields of your page. And that is pretty easy, actually. And I'll show you that. But first, let's just go back to the slides and try to understand what is the pattern behind it, how we made this possible. And in my opinion, that is the best part. Nothing really new for you to learn, because it is the same paradigm. We are just dealing with device capabilities. So it is the same development paradigm that you are used to. Do you remember 2 years ago, on this stage, together with me, we coded together the camera API. We used the camera, we interacted together with the camera, and the geolocalization as well. So it is still the same paradigm, because this is available as a client extension. So nothing really new for you to learn, nothing new to learn. It's just very fast. And since I want to prove that to you, we're going to do that again together. So, as it happened 2 years ago, I'll try to do some CAL together. So here I am. Now I am a CAL developer. No more a user, I am a developer. And I want to actually have this functionality in my application. So what I do, I just get my customer card, and I design it. Perfect. I want to create a new action. So I don't know all the shortcut keys, unfortunately, so please be patient. All right. Let's create a new action. That action is, of course, import contact. And there we go. Since I'm working on a phone, I want to make sure that the action is visible there in the action pane. So what I need to make sure is that this action is actually promoted. So I make it promoted, but the category is fine. And I make it big, so I make sure that that action is going to be visible in the action pane. Perfect. Next, let's start writing some code. All right, our awesome environment is ready. Who remembers what is the same thing we need to do? What's the thing we need to do here now? Remember, same paradigm. What do we need? Again, code unit? Wait, that's too complicated, a code unit. .NET, what do you mean? Precisely. Give
There you go.
Shirt. Yes. Thank you. Very good. So, exactly as your colleague was saying, it's the same paradigm as before. You need an entry point. And that entry point is just a variable. It's going to be a .NET type and a subtype client extensions. So let's do that. So I remember some shortcut keys here. Yes. So I can create a variable. And I'm going to call it device contact provider. Yes, it's a .NET variable, and I need to make sure that this variable is actually a client extension. So let's pick up the assembly. So I'm going to get the list of the assemblies available for me, and I need to make sure to select the client extensions. So where are you? Microsoft Dynamics NAV client extensions. If you see that, just stop me. Here. Yes. Thank you. All right. There we go. Of course, as soon as I select the assemblies, I get all the objects available there. And the one I need, the entry point that I need is the device contact provider. I click OK. My variable is ready. So I have my entry point. Perfect. I got my entry point, so I can skip it. I can move on, I mean. And the next thing, I can start using it. So the first thing I want to do is, I want to start using my object. And I can just go and call the API, right? But is there anything else I would like to do first? Check your what?
Check your device.
Check
Yes.
what? If I'm on a phone, not really. That's not what I need to check. No, not client type. Precisely.
There you go.
Thank you. So you need to make sure that, where are you? Oh, thank you. So it is correct, of course. You might want to check that you're on a phone, but you do that by making the action visible and acting on the visible property. What I wanted to stress on is the fact that you need to check that you have permission to access the contacts. Because the user, the first time, you didn't see that on the demo because it was not my first time to access the contact list. But you're going to be prompted, the first time, the user is going to be prompted whether he wants or not to give permission to Microsoft Dynamics NAV to use your contacts. And it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense that he might say no. So you need to act accordingly. So the first thing we want to do is checking this. Yes. And I will close it immediately so I don't forget it. All right. So now I'm sure that I landed in that code only if the user gave me a green light, basically. So now I can really use the object. And I love IntelliSense. The first thing I do, of course, is creating a new instance of the device contact provider so I can use it. As soon as I have it, I can request a device contact. Perfect? Am I done? No. Because as the name implies, this one is an asynchronous API, right? So there is a second phase. And a second phase means that there is an event handler somewhere. And who can tell me what mistake I made? Because this event handler, I will not be able to find it. Why? Huh? Yes. So, sure?
No.
Yes?
We have many shares. Where are you? Over there? Okay. What? Yes. Never played basketball, but I'm good, apparently. Yes, when I was creating the variable, so let's bring that up again. I keep forgetting this. I keep forgetting this. Yeah, I need to set run on client, yes. And I also need to actually enable events. That is very important. Perfect. Now I'm really fine, because at the bottom, I will see that Seaside has created a placeholder for me where I can react when the user is done and has picked up a contact. So perfect. It means that device contact, the argument passed to that function is going to the method, is going to contain all the information about the contact. No. It's not really always the case. We need to check. We need to check the status. Why? Because the user can actually give you permission to have access to his own contact list, but he might decide not to pick up anything, or something else can go wrong actually. So that's why we need to check the status. If it is different from 0, it means that the user probably didn't select anything or hit cancel. In that case, device contact is not going to provide you anything, no information, because no contact was picked up. And in that case, you need to react. For us, it means that we basically exit gracefully. But you can call something else. You can show up a message or do whatever you want. When we are done, now at this point, if we continue, then it means that device contact actually has some information for us. And what you do, you just basically copy the information from the device contact into the fields of your page. So guess what? I'm lazy. So I already had that in my clipboard, because it's not really rocket science here. You need to copy a string, and that string is nothing more than, as I told you, the fields inside the contacts, provided you in device contact. So preferred name and preferred email in this case. It's just a very simple example. I'm just copying the name and the email. And that's it. I'm transferring the information from the contact into the fields of my page. And of course, if I want these to show in the client, I need to call update. And that's it. Nothing else. So as I promised, it was the same as 2 years ago, where we did the camera together and we did the geolocalization. Same paradigm, simple, asynchronous API, there. And I think that concludes my demo for this. Mm-hmm. So we can continue.
Yes. All right. So far you have seen a lot of cool features, and we have more to come. But actually what has happened behind the scenes is that we have, during this time, we have also re-architected the web client stack in order to provide a great experience for our end users in the cloud. So let's take a peek under the hood at the architecture and platform improvements we have been working on during this year. So if we think about the architecture journey that the web client had so far, right? When we have introduced the device clients, our main focus was on responsiveness. And that is why we have shifted to a single-page architecture. So what does that mean? That means the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are retrieved during one single page load. And there is no other page load during the whole lifetime of this session. And that was the fundament for building modern responsive web apps. Later on, when we have, in 2016, we have started our journey of transforming the web client into a proficient desktop client. And we have done around 16 enhancements, right? I remember actually demoing those 16 enhancements. And along with that, we have also rewritten the rendering engine to run on the browser side. And that has helped us a lot with the scalability of the web server, and also it improved the performance of our mobile apps on a high latency networks. And this year, the focus has been, as I said, the cloud experience, and also Vincent has touched that during the keynote. So we have been shifting to a microservices architecture. So what does this mean for web? That means that the web client now runs on ASP.NET Core stack in an Azure Service Fabric cluster. So let's take a peek at how our stack looks in the cloud today. This is a bit similar with what you've seen in the keynote, but let's talk a little bit in detail, right? So notice that on the right-hand side of the screen, you have the Service Fabric cluster, and in there we have the 3 microservices, the web client, the NAV server, and the monitoring agent. And let's understand what do we gain from the microservices architecture. Basically, when we have shifted to cloud, right, we have not only changed our mindset, but also it has also changed the way we design and we architect the components, and also how we deploy them in the cloud. And parameters like ability to scale on demand, availability of the service has become more important than ever. And this is where the microservices approach, it helps us, because it takes a monolithic application like ours and splits it into finely grained, loosely coupled service components. And those service components can now be upgraded and scaled independently. So it improves a lot the efficiency of our service. And along with that, we have also improved the security of our service. And we have done that by introducing the application gateway. Basically, it maybe sounds very technical, but what it does really, it is a web-dedicated application firewall. So that means that our web client endpoints are protected in the cloud against security vulnerabilities and exploits even more. And our end users don't interact directly with the web client endpoints. But now that we have an understanding of how our stack looks in the cloud today, let's talk a little bit about the Service Fabric and what we actually gain from running on a Service Fabric cluster. So Azure Service Fabric, the intention with it is that it's a platform that simplifies a lot the process of building and deploying microservices, and it does that because it takes care of the inter-service communication and also the error handling, right? And it is important to note that Azure Service Fabric powers today many of the Microsoft online services, as Vincent also mentioned, basically Azure SQL DB, Skype for Business, Power BI, Cortana API, and so on. But what it was important for us was primarily the automated upgrade process. So that means that our platform today gets upgraded in around 4 minutes to a new version. And during this upgrade, there will be no downtime that our users will experience. So this has been a great feature for us, because it gives us the ability to roll out new versions and new hotfixes a lot faster. Also, we have also Azure Service Fabric has a great failure recovery mechanism and a load resource distribution mechanism. But coming back to the web client, and why is it that we have moved to an ASP.NET Core stack? The primary reason was that the web client on the ASP.NET was not able to run on a Service Fabric cluster. So that was what our main driver for being on the ASP.NET Core. But besides that, we also have gotten a lot of benefits out of moving to the new stack, and let's talk a little bit about those. So ASP.NET Core, just in a couple of words, right? It's a web development platform, and what it does, it actually allows the web developer to write the application once, and then it can deploy it seamlessly, either in cloud or on-premise, on Docker images, and whatnot. And by doing that, we have achieved a seamless transition of our web app between on-premise and cloud. Also, the current ASP.NET Core platform supports multiple hosting types. So what does it mean? It means it has support for a couple of web servers, So we have a Windows dedicated web server, called Web Listener, and this is what we are actually running on in a Azure Service Fabric cluster. Then it also has a cross-platform web server called Castral, and it also supports the good old IIS, which we will still see on the on-premise installations with the new stack. And another thing to remember is that ASP.NET Core has really good performance benchmarks. You can go ahead on the internet and check, but basically it can handle million of requests per second. And also, another interesting aspect is that it's a cross-platform, right? So that means that this opens the door for us to be able to potentially run the web server on a macOS or on Linux. Of course, we are not there just yet. There is still a lot of work, but at least now we are on a cross-platform stack.
Getting closer?
Yes. And I know you would love to have a macOS, right?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So now let's talk a little bit about what are you going to experience when you install the new web server components on premise. So the web config file is still there, but it's very light. So right now the settings are actually stored in a JSON file called navsettings.json. You will also see no more SPX pages. So if you would like to access, as previously, the phone and tablet client in the browser, you, instead of saying /phone XPX, you just say /phone/tablet. Also, we have done enhancement to our PowerShell scripts. The most notable one is actually that now the web server can be deployed as a root site. So what does that mean? That means that, that now you can have simpler URLs for your customers. Previously, you were tied up in a certain structure, like HTTP, Dynamics, NAV, whatnot. Now you can choose to have your NAV web server installation at HTTP localhost if you choose so. And the new bits are going to be available, of course, in the NAV 2018, and they were also available in the CTP builds for some of you to try them early and give us feedback. Okay? So that concludes the under the hood talk. And now, as usual, we also provide you with a glimpse of what's coming, which is the most maybe interesting part.
The best part?
Yeah.
Of the demo?
Features or what's next? I don't know. Yep. It's hard to choose.
What's next? What's next?
Yes. So, at a high level, what are our intentions? Our intentions is to, of course, continue on the microservices journey. So we plan to take advantage more and more of the Azure capabilities. And we have actually we're currently working, you remember, the 3 microservices. We're also introducing a new one, which will basically serve the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript independently of the web server. We will also be optimizing the cloud scenarios for end users. So for those of you who actually tried out the Dynamics 365 for finance and operations, how many of you? Okay, I see some hands. So you know that the tenant URLs are DNS-based, right? So you have to all the time bookmark them and remember them. What we will be doing, we will be introducing a single URL to sign in for every user, so you don't need to bookmark those URLs anymore. You'll have just one single URL to access your finance and operations solution. And of course, along with the cloud, it also comes the investment in the powerful user experiences. So what are our plans there, right? So we plan to enrich the personalization even more. You notice that there are some gaps, and we plan to cover those. We will also be focusing on accessibility and productivity features like keyboarding. We have seen a glimpse of our keyboard improvement, but there are more to come. And we also plan to focus on accessibility. We will, of course, continuing our integration with Office 365. Of course, you can go ahead and watch tomorrow the Office 365 session with Evgeny. And lastly, we will also be focusing on updating the look and feel, because we want our client not only to be agile and perform well in cloud, but also look modern.
You say no more. That's my part. Don't spoil.
Okay, fine. There you go.
Yep. So, UX refresh. Let's start from one basic fact, and that is users every year expect more and more from applications. Great visuals, more productivity, more simplicity. And with this in mind, we decided to start an effort in the client team to restyle our UI for our HTML clients. This is very important. I'm quite excited about that because it's basically about changing the look and feel of our application. And the desktop client, tablet client, phone client are going to be impacted. We call this effort UX refresh. And I think in the keynote, you already heard a little bit about that. But the point is that in this session, as the last demo for you, we want to enter a bit more in details about UX refresh, especially in the consideration that we are going to offer something very cool, which is theming. Yes, the ability to define your own color palette in Dynamics NAV. Why that? Because it is important for you to make Microsoft Dynamics NAV closer to your solution. You want Microsoft Dynamics NAV to look more like you. And with that in mind, we decided to start supporting theming. And guess what? UX Refresh, the new layout, is all based on theming. So what we are doing, the effort we're trying to put on is act on our controls, our set of controls, and parameterize all UI-related parameters, color, fonts, and the style, so that you will be able to change them. We have taken the first steps towards this final destination. So it's not like today you're going to get there. We're going to get there slowly. And it is a big effort. So let's start by looking at some visuals here. The role center. One of the basic principles we have in mind as we are rearranging the layout is making space for what's important. And you can see already a few changes here. We put focus on what is important in the page, and we make less prominent what is not so important in that context, in the context of that particular page type. And also also display target, because the effort is spanning across desktop, tablet, and phone. So you see bigger numbers, because that's where you want the user to draw his attention. Actions, where are my actions? They've been moved. So we have moved them in a contextual area. We have a new paradigm, a new command bar on top. So they're still there. They didn't disappear. They're just differently reachable. And there is another thing you might notice here, the navigation pane. The navigation pane is no more, basically, because we thought that dedicating the side area to the navigation wasn't really correct. Let's make space for data and content, which is the most important thing. The rest will flow. So we have a new paradigm for navigation, which is the new navigation bar on top. We are still working on that as we are designing the new navigation paradigm. But it's tough work, but it's very nice. It's going to come up beautifully. And we are also using input from you. Yes, let's have a look at the list page. List pages have the same principle. Layout is centered, and you might see another change in here, where are fact boxes. Again, taking a whole side area just for fact boxes seemed a bit wrong. Importance, space to content and data, the rest will flow. So we have taken out fact boxes from their usual side area, and we have put them in a different area in list pages, which is in contextual areas. Now you will be able to bring up fact boxes by using the context menu on each single row in list pages. Card pages. Let's stay on fact boxes, because you see that fact boxes in here are displayed. They're no more on the side as before, but they're on top. We have created a new header section for fact boxes. Actually, for card pages. And in there, you will see a summary of your entity. It can be an item, it can be a customer. But you have the key metrics and the key numbers that provide a good summary of your entity. And there, fact boxes are actually useful. So we moved them from the side, and we decided to put them on top, while the rest of the layout is pretty much the same. Even though we still have some different paradigm in here, where is the ribbon? If there is no more ribbon, we are working on that, so you will be able to place your actions in a different area, which is the command bar. Still working on that, but that is where we're headed. And the best thing, which is what I want to stress on, is that everything is much of this is based on theming. So the new colors, the new fonts, the new style, most of them are themable. So later on, when we will be able to roll this out for you, you will be able to take your own color palette and apply that to Microsoft Dynamics NAV. And I'm not joking on this. We already started our effort for that. And we have started gradually rolling it. And I have a little treat for you guys. So I can just provide you with a little sneak peek of how the new UX refresh looks like and the theming looks like. So we can bring up, Horina, the colors as they are now. And you will see the new colors for the UX. No, that's wrong.
Sorry?
No, that is my personal theme.
But this is what you gave
That's
me,
my
Andrea.
personal theme. That's not UX refresh. That's Andrea, Tino's personal theme. But you see, that's my theme. So I define my own colors. It's pretty pinkish, but that's fine to me. So you see, charts is different. New colors are on tiles. You will be able to define your own intent colors and apply them to the UI. But that's not really what I wanted to show. So let's bring the new colors, the real colors for UX refresh.
So I was supposed to click on the other tab. Okay,
Yes.
sorry.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
that's it. So that's how we're gradually rolling it out. So at the moment, you see that many of the paradigms that I introduced are not there. Navigation is still there. Ribbon is still there, because we are working on it. We are gradually changing all of these, and gradually with the updates as well, they're going to be made available for you to try and to experience. So I really hope you will enjoy this, and I'm really sure you will, and I'm looking forward to see how Microsoft Dynamics NAV will look like in your own specific solutions. So looking forward to that, and that basically concludes my demo here. So we have now 15 minutes for your question, a bit more than that, for your questions.
First question.
So,
Yes. Where do we have the?
Here.
Yeah.
oh yeah,
That's
sure.
true. We have this one.
Ready?
Hi. Questions about the UI. I think there's been a lot of questions about it already, but the possibility to drag and drop the width of the column in the web client.
To what?
The width of the column.
Adjustable column width.
Adjustable columns, yeah.
Yes. So we're working on it. Yes.
No promises yet.
Sorry?
No promises yet.
No. No, I mean in the short term. Yes.
Okay.
You can just throw it up.
Hello. You showed us the personalization of the user. Will there be also be available to personalize the profile via the web client?
So today in the NAV 2018, you are not going to be able to personalize to have profile configuration through the new technology, right? But if you create the configuration profiles in the Windows client, those will be applied to the web as well.
Okay. And I didn't see it quite as well, but did you just drag a field from the invoicing register to the general register during the configuration of the page?
Yes.
Because I think that it wasn't possible in the last versions, so this is a new feature. To
drag and drop?
Yeah, between the registers.
Between the fast tabs or?
Yeah, between the fast tabs.
Yes.
Okay. And this will also work for the Windows client?
No.
Okay.
So the experience is primarily on the Windows client, right? So we have not touched the personalization on Windows, right?
Okay. And when I personalize my Windows client, will the changes be affected on the web client?
No. So the thing is, the moment you start personalizing the web, right, then Windows and web will be two separate personalizations, right?
Okay.
Because they're based on two different technologies. So you'll be able to run with them parallel.
Okay, and the last question is, you showed us the new preview of the printing, of the preview printing. In the Windows client, you can have a dynamic sorting. You can change the sorting of the rows. As this is a PDF, I think this won't be available in the web client.
Yes, you are right. It's not going to be available, directly in the report preview. But that is also because we believe that the sorting, the ad hoc sorting, can also be done through other tools like Power BI or Excel, for instance, right? You can always export Excel and do the sorting.
Okay. Good, thank you.
Maybe it's just a definition question, but I'm wondering, is the desktop client the same thing as a Windows client, or is it desktop actually the web client?
So the desktop for us is both actually, and primarily the web client, right? And the Windows client, it's basically, as I mentioned in my overview of client technologies, right? We are aware that users are still very fond of it, and it's probably going to be for a while. But actually, we intend to have all the features being available in web client as well.
Because I can remember, I think it was 2 years ago, Andrea, that you had this Windows client actually dropping off the PowerPoint sheet at some point in time. I don't know if it was you or one of the other colleagues, but then it was quite forcefully stated that the Windows client would disappear at some point in time. And now I actually get the feeling that it's going to be there for some years to come yet.
It's basically, it's going to be there, but it's not going to be the client where we will going to invest with the new features, because it's a different technology. The Windows client and the web client are based on two different technologies, and the HTML clients are, the future from our technology, from our engineering point of view, and our customers actually, because you won't go on devices with the Windows client. So that is where we will be investing. The Windows client will still be there because, as I said, the users are still fond of it, right?
Okay. One last question, because there might be a lot of other ones wanted to ask questions, of course. The pick card that I saw in the key presentation, and you showed it again. So that's on the list. So that's the new UX experience, and then the pick card, which you have a list page, and you just show some sort of a fact box. Is that going to be populated with, like, for example, the promoted fields, or?
The picker?
Yeah, if you have a...
It was in the last part of the UX
so
refresh?
In the UX refresh,
Yes.
you have the
UX
list
refresh,
page, and then you have this small, I thought it was called a pick card, I don't know for sure, but...
Called what, sorry?
A pick card,
Pick card.
yeah. Like in
Okay,
a
card
small
page.
fact box was showing up on the lines in the list page.
Yes.
Are those going to be populated with the promoted fields, or is there any
We're
way
still
you can
working on that. It's still all work in
okay.
progress. But the idea is that in the context menu on lines, we will show fact boxes. For the actions, we're still working on that because it's about rearranging a lot of elements. So a bit of work in progress there. Cannot really tell at the moment.
Thanks.
Over there. Oh, okay.
Hi. Great work on the refresh of the web client. I have a question regarding the filtering. What is still some kind of a hassle in the web client right now, because you can't do the sum filtering?
Okay, the limit totals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And you cannot filter on columns that aren't shown in the list. And that's the main reason that stops my coworkers from working with the web client, although it's great. But that's some kind of a big deal. I don't think.
Yes. So yes, definitely the advanced filter. It's an experience that we will have to provide also in web, right? And whether that's going to be that we will think about how to render the limit totals in the new UX refresh, or it's going to come later. We haven't decided yet, right? But coming back to your statement that you're currently blocked. To my knowledge, the limit totals can be applied also from the application filters, right? So you can always have an application action that applies the limit totals. I know that that's not good, but at least until you unblock your scenarios, and we will actually finally get to the advanced filters.
Okay. it would be great if there was some method to reset all the filters, because when I set some filters from the code, and I want to remove these things, I just can't do this without hitting or making another action to reset all the filters.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we'll have this feedback in mind. I think also the main, the interesting thing, I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I was in NAV actually when we roll out the role tailor client, right, in 2009, and also the advanced filter in Windows client was also not thought to be ideal at those times in 2009. So I think right now what we're trying to do, we're trying to find a way to provide a good experience for the filtering as well, in terms of being, because I think the complaints when we had the advanced filter for the Windows client, that was that users were used to C-side, which was a very table approach, and then we moved to this control, which was hard to use and not very friendly, right? It's a big control. So we for sure don't want that kind of experience in the web client. So that is why we are not rushing and just saying, okay, let's have the advanced filter right now, right? So we need to think about how the experience would look to satisfy both the simplicity needs and also the proficiency.
Okay, thank you.
You have a question there? Okay, sorry, it looks like that box is not really working.
I've been waiting for a
yeah,
question.
but it'll go back to you.
Thank you. How it works. When we said that we could change the profile on the fly, so a user could say which profile they wanted to select, is there any protection around which profiles they can see to select? Is there any permissions around that?
In the My Settings page.
Yeah, you only see the profiles which you can pick.
So is that a list of all profiles, is that, sorry?
It's not. In My Settings, it doesn't show all the profiles. It shows the profiles you can select.
Okay, and how do you control, sorry, which ones you can select? Is that permission-based?
Yes, that's permission-based.
Okay.
Hello. Regarding the report viewer, PDF report viewer, does it use printer selection? I mean this configuration for user.
So the configuration is done on the client side and the native side. So if you have a printer configured in your browser, that's how it would work, or on a phone. So user has to configure the printer in the browser, in the native browser experience. So it works like in any other page when you want to print a page, right? So user has to go into browser settings and set up a printer. Okay.
We have a question over there?
Yeah. On AL code, they said we're not supporting .NET, so the examples you showed us on getting the camera provider, is that still going to work the way you coded it, or is that going to be different in AL code?
Sorry again? The contact, not the camera.
Right, the code basically used the .NET to get the camera, but we're told in AL code they're not supporting .NET anymore, so does that apply to those functions, or those can have to be done differently?
So you're talking about the new modern dev experience.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean there is some discussions today about how .NET objects will be replaced, and we don't have right now an answer. I think the team is still working on it.
Yeah, I think so too. So for now, that's sure supported, so you can use that. So when the new experience for developing is going to be rolled out, we will see.
Because I think the AL is already going to be available with the new release for doing extensions. So that's why I was wondering if it's going to be...
So you were wondering if this is going to be possible to be done in an extension, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not currently, but we are working on it, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
The extensibility API, like camera and GPS, will be available. Yes.
I got a question over here, all the way up here. The action images, will we be allowed to choose our own, or are we still limited to the one you provide us?
This is about the UX refresh?
No, it's
The
about
new layout? Or?
Yeah, no, it's just about the action images. If I have when I have an action, I put an image on the action and push it, and I can see what action it is. Will I be able to use another image for my action?
Like
the one you
apart
provide?
from those available in the list in Seaside, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Currently, no.
Currently, no.
No, but we know that that's also a feature that that our partners want.
Okay.
Question for the PDF functionality. Is it possible to use to preview PDFs that are stored in a blob field, stored with save as PDF function in the blob, so that I can use the new functions in the browser to preview the PDF?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Are you talking, would you like to kind of change the PDF after it gets generated to the server, like archive, just do some operations on the PDF, or?
So I stored the PDF in the blob as an archive, and now I want to view the PDF in the browser.
Ah, okay. No, we don't support that yet.
Yeah.
So basically, we're talking whether the PDF viewer works only for reports, or you can also use it for PDF documents. Not currently. So it is primarily based on the report data.
Okay.
Hello, I'm here. Just a quick opinion about UX refresh and removing the fact boxes from the right pane and move it to the contextual menu. So it's one more click for the user to reach the data. Maybe it is one step backwards because when you have it on the right pane, you can click with a down key on the list to go to
that is correct,
data.
but depends from the point of view. So our UX team, we investigate on what users, what actions users do the most in the context of certain UI areas. When it comes to list, what we noticed actually by seeing users using the product is that they spend more time, they want more space for rows.
Yes.
So, and that's the thing. Also, we collect that every time you, also in the cloud, when you actually collapse a fact box. So we see how many times users collapse and leave the fact box collapsed. So we have this data. And we could see that users were spending more time on the content. So we know that it's actually more important for them to get the content rather than the fact box. So we decided to move the fact boxes into the contextual area.
And it was also the fact that we sometimes have different type of fact boxes, right? Sometimes we have fact boxes that reflect the overview of your lists. And sometimes you have fact boxes that reflect the data on the row, right? So it could be that we will go with the different approaches where the ones that you will see in the context menu are the ones per row, and the overview will still be able to see it somehow somewhere else, right?
Right.
So we'll have this in mind. Yes, believe me, we'll have it.
Okay, thank you.
Over there.
Okay, I've got a question. So you say, okay, we remove all the fact boxes, so the customer has more space to see fields. But then my question is, okay, do you see really more fields? Because when you are adding a field, the maximum is 2 fields on one line, or you need to make, let's say, make 3 or 4. But is it then not easier to say, okay, if we want more space, just change the length or put it where you can, as like in the classic?
Yeah. So again, our UX team has done research on this. So we have data that indicates us what the best approach was. So we could see that users were spending in lists. So I see that you are referring more on lists, right?
Yeah, also on cards, because now.
But on cards you didn't lose the fact box. They're on top now. Actually, where you have a header, so you can have a better summary of your entity.
But now the problem is with end customers. You need always to scroll down to see the information on the fields, of the fields that are available. But if, let's say, if you have 10 lines with 5 times 2 fields, is it then not possible to put 4 fields against each other?
I'm sorry, you need to repeat the question, because I thought you were talking about
No,
card
so I
pages
think
now.
you're talking about how are we going to optimize for the space, for the vertical space, or
Yeah, for the vertical, yeah. And
Yeah.
horizontal also. Huh?
yeah, okay.
So now, okay, let's say you have 10 fields on your on a card. Huh? So it means it's always 5 lines. Huh? So okay, you are removing the fact box. Okay, so you're creating more space. Huh? But you don't create more space. It's just the length of the fields that is growing. So what is the benefit to remove the fact boxes? I don't see a benefit, to be honest. Because the visibility of the customer stays the same when you open it. It doesn't see the fact box. Okay, it's bigger. But
Yeah, that's true. This is specific for card pages, right? Yeah. So in the new layout for card pages, we have decided to create a different section for the summary of the entity, and that's where we thought that fact boxes were more useful. Also, again, by making some research, we could see that users spend some time in those areas or not. But with the specific case of card pages, we have created 2 different logical areas because we wanted to separate the data of the entity from the summary. And we wanted to create this horizontal separation, and that's why you see them now in the header area. So my comment about, in this case, for more space to data is actually to be applied to lists. Yes, that's true. On card pages, you get fields which are a bit more expanded now. Fair enough. But on list pages, it really pays off.
But I mean, in general, we will be actually running usability study quite intensively, and that is why you know, UX refresh will take some time. It's not like we will just you know, roll it out. So we'll have all of these considerations in mind. Also, what we will have in mind for the UX refresh is not changing too much the metadata or not changing. You know, our goal is basically to you know, for you to get this new experience without having to change the application code. It could be that maybe for getting some of the optimized feature, you will have to add new properties or use new properties. But in general, we won't be, for example, asking you to rethink, you know, the metadata on the ribbon or on the navigation pane and so on.
Yeah, but is it then not the same question as the other sir mentioned? Can it not be possible that we define the length instead that the system is creating the length himself?
These are
yeah. You can
yeah. So this is all in terms of usability. So the layout that we have today is based on the research and the data we have now. And keep in mind that we are still working on that. So we will see, basically.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really settled yet, right? This is all what's next, remember, right? It's not coming, you know, just now. So.
Okay.
Okay. We're running out of time, but we can take your question.
Yep.
Well.
Wow. I think down there, but here. Yeah, if you can.
Yeah, well, I have a question.
Oh.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was on the saved, well, actually the advanced filtering. And I was thinking about the saved views that you could create in the past or you can create in the old style Windows client. Wouldn't it be possible to bring back views as a way to create the advanced filtering? So there's more of an experience saying, I want to create this view with an advanced filter, save it as a view.
Yeah, so definitely we will be addressing the saved views, right, functionality. We are aware that together with the advanced filter, the saved view is also on our minds, right? And I think the way we look at the saved views is also, we look at it in the regards of having the new navigation pane component in the UX refresh. So we'll probably have this in mind when we're designing the new navigation component for UX refresh.
Thank you.
Hey, we have a quick question up here in the middle. Yeah, hey. Hello. Yeah. You're talking about user personalization and configuration. Is it correctly understood that the configuration mode can only be handled in the Windows client, and the user configuration can only be handled in the web client? So the new functionality about moving fields between fast tabs will only be available in on the web client, correct?
The
Just
thing
two
is that
different
you can
experiences.
personalize today in Windows Client, right? So the personalization in Windows Client has actually quite a rich set of features today that we're trying to reach parity with. It's just that the drag and drop paradigm and the new technology is only available in web, right?
Excellent. And just another question about the shortcuts in the web client. At the moment, I understand that the Windows client may die at some point, which is fair enough. But you showed Control-Enter for doing one shortcut in the Windows client, and it's another in the web client. And just general shortcuts, a question about this. Are you going to be able to apply these in the web client at some point? I think you have accountants who use shortcuts constantly.
Oh, yes. So definitely we are working on keyboard shortcuts, right? We have, and actually our first approach actually is to look at the keyboarding in grids. Today, I think the web client does not have, all the goodies that the Windows client has in terms of Control Home, Control End, Shift Control Home, Shift Control End.
Exactly.
This is something we're currently working on. So it's definitely something we're going to support.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
attending.
Thank you.